Hi, I am Dr. Jim Porter, and I am going to talk today about meaning, purpose, and mental health. For a long time in mental health, there were a lot of theories about what primarily gets us going, what primarily keeps people healthy. What is the reason why we have suffering? What is the reason why we act weird and all that? There were theories in the past that our primary drive was a drive toward pleasure, the pleasure principle. All we wanted was pleasure. After that, there was the concept that we had a will to power, a drive toward power. Just that's what motivates our behavior. That's what explains all behavior, that we are sitting here just wanting to claim power, and that was our thing. Viktor Frankl formally stated, I don't know, back in the 1940s, the 1950s, that our primary drive, the primary thing that keeps us going, gets us up in the morning, gets us moving, and gets us to do a lot of things that are untoward, is the drive toward meaning in life. The drive toward meaning in life, the idea that we have a purpose, that we have a place, that we have something to do here, that we are important, that we belong, that we are an important part of this thing. We're just as important as anything else going on for some reason, and that sort of thing. And the question there fundamentally is why? Why? Why is there suffering? Why do some people push through suffering and keep on going in life? Why do some people give up on life and that sort of thing? Dr. Viktor Frankl spent a lot of time in concentration camps as a prisoner, and he had his theory on this formed before that. He had an entire manuscript almost ready to publish when he was kidnapped and arrested and put in a concentration camp. His wife was separated from him, and she was put at another location. And then he hid the manuscript in the lining of his coat, but eventually they confiscated his coat. So he had to spend his time rewriting his manuscript on little pieces of paper that he found throughout the camp. But he said what he saw in camp only affirmed what he had suspected in the first place. He believed that the people who had some sort of meaning and purpose were the people who actually were more likely to survive. Now, he did not say that the best people survived. In fact, because sometimes prisoners had to make a decision that would allow them to survive, allow them to be pulled out of the extermination line that day, it necessarily meant, because the Nazis had to keep their numbers, that somebody else would be put into the extermination line in their place. Now, he didn't feel wonderful about the fact that him being a physician, he would raise his hand when someone asked for physicians, and that would save his life for that day, and necessarily someone else had to step in line in his place. He said, the best of us did not make it out of the concentration camps. He said that in other words. I'm only paraphrasing. I haven't read his book in years, actually. However, what he did for us was started to highlight the idea that it's not just mechanics, it's not just illness that we're talking about, it's something much bigger. What's going on with us when we're mentally healthy and mentally ill is how we relate to the big question and the big picture and what that means for us. So, Martin Seligman reaffirmed that when he started talking about PERMA, which are 5 aspects of well-being according to him, and the M stands for meaning in that. My take on it comes from lots of work with therapists, lots of work with clients and patients, lots of work being alive. And so you are going to be just as much of an expert as I am on this subject, but I am going to start this conversation. Why do people suffer? Why do people move on in suffering? Why do some people give up? Why do some people have to suffer more than others? And what does this all have to do with me? That is a question that we answer by thinking, I think, of relationships. And I like to say, all things can be conceived of as relationships. So, my relationship with myself, my relationship to my body, my relationship to my heart, my relationship to my mind. And if you believe in a spirit, then your relationship to your soul. If you don't believe in a spirit, your body is basically your mind and soul. If you believe in an entity out there, you've got a lot of ways to think about that. And the question starts to be for us, does this entity, does the world, does the universe care about us? A lot of physicists I've read would say the universe doesn't think about us. It is, we're irrelevant to the universe. We just sort of popped up or something like that. But when those physicists go home and they're interacting with their wives and when they're laying in bed, there are questions swirling and swirling up here or down here about who they are, what they're about, what their personal worth is, and that sort of thing. They have to make more mechanistic ideas about the universe, and psychologists that do research have to make their own mechanistic ideas about how we work as human beings and what matters and what's important, because they have to be able to turn whatever they're doing into numbers that can be measured and then published, and they can get grant money and all that kind of thing. So that's work. But when they go home, when they're driving home, when they're at home, the big questions plague all of them too. So here's what it is. Your relationship with yourself, your relationship with other people, the ones you love, the ones you hate, the ones who have power over you, the ones who don't have power over you, the ones you have power over, like your children and other people who are vulnerable. What is your place in that is a good question. And we had what we call like an individualistic school of psychology for a while there. It was about personal empowerment. It was the human potential movement. You've got it in yourself, you can do anything. And there were some great things about that because, yes, I do believe that you are inherent. You're an indisputable fact of life, and that you should think of yourself not as something that can be negotiated, but come as you are, take me as I am, deal with me as I am. That's what I do hope you have that inner strength. But however, we affect and we are affected by everything else. We're affected by the universe, our thoughts and relationship to it and about it, the people we know, the people we don't know, how your society is related to you and how you relate to it. What place you have in your society, what place you have in your culture, what place you have in your family, what place you have in your friendship group. So one of the things we need to do is just, since I don't think anybody can dictate to us our meaning, we have to actually suppose what our meaning is based on what we believe, our values, our morals, what we've observed in the world, what we think is going on. And I would say one of the things is what fulfills us and motivates us most, because we don't have any litmus test to tell us if we're wrong or right about our meaning and purpose. So you are going to have to trust yourself. You're going to have to trust yourself. And in that process, you're going to have to discover more of what yourself is, because it's not necessarily what you think it is. And as you learn to trust yourself, you're also going to have to learn to question some of your beliefs. Because of a lot of your beliefs, that your most cherished beliefs, the ones you think just make the most sense, this goes for me too, are the things that drag you down in the middle of the night when you're trying to go to bed and you're wondering if you're going to make it in the world, and you're wondering if you have a right to make it in the world. They're the things that can drag you down when you're in a conversation with someone and you're like, am I allowed to speak up here? Am I allowed to disagree here? So one of the things that happened to start to break us psychotherapist types away from this individualistic worldview that, hey, it's just me, I'm really just a good person, I have to believe in my potential, I can survive anything, and the more positive I think, the better things will be. There's another thing going on. What is your relationship to it all? And what is your ability to participate into it all? If the feminist critique of psychotherapy is something I think I brought up before. And they come up with the concept, the personal is political and the political is personal. And what that means is, I think I know why we're all getting freaked into politics. We're getting so into it, we can't avoid it. Everybody criticizes that. But the point is, you have a place in your political culture. It affects you, and you have the right to affect your political culture. and to build up the concept that you have some kind of power to affect the political culture and how societies treat their citizens, and how different subgroups of the population treat each other, and what your subgroup of the population is, whether that has something to do with concepts of race, ethnicity, religion, your personal sense of ethics, your worldview. These things are very important, but they were shaped for you by the people who brought you up, by the society that you grew up in. But now that you're aware of this, you have the ability to start shaping these for yourself. And you're going to find that there's a lot of erroneous thinking and believing going on in there that's not helping you. So, question the beliefs that bring you down, and maybe even question some of the beliefs that keep you motivated, and start to work on this. And now I'm going to talk about getting political. Because if we feel we have the right beliefs, and if we feel like we're doing pretty well in our life, we still have an innate concern for everybody and everything on this planet. Now, a lot of us have buried that concern. We're just too freaking busy to think about how we want to deal with that big picture. But that makes us feel more and more powerless. That makes us feel less and less important. If we don't feel and find some acceptable way to express our power to the larger political structure, to our friends and neighbors who have similar and differing views, without feeling that there's something wrong with talking about it, without feeling that there's something wrong with fighting for what you believe in, then we're going to feel lesser and lesser as human beings. We're going to feel lesser and lesser than what we are. Now, if we were that small, that'd be fine. That'd just be being honest with ourselves. But we're not that small. We are so much bigger than we think we are. Many world cultures have side effects of making their citizens, their people, feel smaller than they are. We have to have a culture. We can't just escape culture. You can't move to an island. You'll feel worse, believe me. We have to engage that culture and feel like we're making a difference. One belief I want to affirm is that all the efforts you make in your life, this is just a belief I have, and it helps keep me going, will continue to have their effect after you're dead and gone. So, how do you engage politics? I believe you find a lot of like-minded others, learn what you really believe, start to get used to the disagreement you're going to have with people. Inevitably, you're going to have disagreements with your like-minded others group. You join this political group, and you're going to find that there is a difference of opinion within that. And that'll get you used to the idea that it's the relationship that matters. When people get together, when people get accustomed to each other, there's something that happens heart to heart that may be important, that's more important than their views. As we start to do that, not only are we more efficient in political organizing because you just know the people that you're going to do things with that are going to make a difference. But it starts to, I want to give a little example of that. I learned that in certain areas of U.S. history, there were people who started movements merely because they went to the same jobs every day. Then, this is very important, they went to the same bars every day and talked about work and what they didn't like about work and what they wanted to see happen at work and their pay and the politics behind it and the leadership structure. And they trusted each other. And then they went home to the same neighborhoods together. And after a while, this just naturally created this bond that then turned into large movements that changed the politics of our country. I don't know much about the political history of other countries. And so relationships matter first. So you want to get involved with people who agree with you, but you also want to get involved with people who disagree with you because they didn't get their views from being born evil. They're not stupid. They're not idiots. I belong to a side of politics where a lot of my friends believe that they're just a lot of stupid people making stupid decisions, and that's why we're getting the politics we're getting right now. But they're not stupid. They have the same drive and purpose that we have, the will toward finding a meaning and creating meaning and upholding the old beliefs that they believe provide them with meaning at this time in their lives. And so as you begin to question your own beliefs and also align yourself and hang out, organize, and just plain have a meal or a drink with the people who agree with you, have meals and drinks with the people who disagree with you, because you will find not necessarily common ground, but commonality. We're all suffering. We're all on this planet wondering what it's really about, even if we're afraid to admit that we're wondering what it's really about. Talk about the personal things with each other, because all of this politics comes from personal needs. It all comes from personal needs. And what we do in our politics, what we create with our government, and the programs and policies that come out of us affect every single person in our particular country, but across the world. Particularly our country affects the world. But I think on a very invisible way, all countries affect every other country. We are one human group that biologically affects each other. So you want to start to get this, because you will feel more powerful if you can talk with people you disagree with and see them as non-threatening and let them see you as non-threatening, because that opens their hearts to change and opens your heart to change. But it also opens your heart to emphasizing your point and shaking hands at the end of the meal and saying, "I'll see you next time." Eventually, I believe there should be almost no perceived threat in most of you about life, and most of us about life. Yes, we do have an autonomic nervous system that will always sense threat and always sense danger. But there's another part of us that has the potential to feel relatively safe and powerful in this world. And then that beautiful feeling, that something you've done, that cooperating with a group to make changes that are seen throughout your country, maybe throughout the world, will start to make you feel like you have equal power in this world. Ultimately, I think the goal is that, a feeling of equal power, a feeling of equal worth to all of humankind and to all of the universe that we deal with. That's the best I can say it for now. But thank you for listening to this. I'm kind of interested in your comments. You can leave them below, or you can leave them wherever you found this video. And I've never asked people to do this, or maybe I have in one video. Like and subscribe me, because I want to get my I want to have my outreach spread further. Thank you very much. This has been Jim Porter. Finding the button again to turn off the